when they're in all of those bodies, you can tend to, well, let's use the word ignore them. So you can go shopping, or you can go online on social media and get distracted, and you can watch a movie. But once it hits the physical, it's definitely got your attention, because you can't ignore the fact that you're not getting out of bed.
Cue music. Places, everybody, places. We're starting in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Autoimmune Hour, where we look at the rise of autoimmune disorders. I've brought together top experts that range from doctors, specialists, nutritionists, researchers, and even those recovering from autoimmune to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information about autoimmunity and how to live your life uninterrupted.
Thank you for joining us here on the Autoimmune Hour with Sharon Sayler. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. Now, we don't want you to worry about taking too many notes, so you can join the Autoimmune Hour's Courage Club, and we'll send you the transcripts and show notes from every episode. Sign up now at understandingautoimmune.com. Now, back to your host, Sharon Sayler.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And oh my goodness, I am so happy to be with you here again on another brand new episode. As always, I'm always looking for great and interesting guests. And sometimes they're the guests that are return guests, because they're always bringing new and fascinating insights into the world of well-being and wellness to me. And that's my dear friend, Sheila Unique. And she is a #1 best-selling author. Her latest book shot to #1 in Canada, even before, while it was in pre-order. Amazing. We'll talk about that too. Her new book is called Relatefully, How to Gain Greater Relationships from the Inside Out. And one of the things Sheila and I were talking about as I was congratulating her on another best-selling book is this idea of our reactions and how our emotions and our past traumas and all of those sorts of things that people don't want to talk about can stick in our body and cause all sorts of dis-ease. I know, I say it kind of differently than disease, but it can cause, our nerves to do things. It can cause anxiety. It can cause stomach upset, all sorts of things that can manifest then in inflammation as well. And we all know with an autoimmune condition, inflammation is not a good thing. So I want to get her on right now. We'll talk more about her background and her bio, which is extensive, but I really want to start talking about this. So thank you for being on the show again, Sheila.
Oh, it's always a joy to be with you, Sharon. Thank you.
And congratulations, #1 in pre-order. That is amazing.
Well, it's always exciting. And the whole thing about coming from the inside out, that's I think what's been the turning point, having greater relationships from the inside out.
Absolutely. And talk to people what you mean by that, because I had a mentor years ago when I was studying body language who said, my work is from the outside in, and when you do the inner work, it's from the inside out. And I kind of knew what you meant by that title. But I know the subtitle is How to Gain Greater Relationships from the Inside Out. So what do you exactly mean by that?
Well, Sharon, I find that we're so focused outwardly in our world, and we're so focused on what other people say, we're feeling and what we need to do and where we need to go. And we're so focused outwardly that I think it's rare, actually quite uncommon for people who go inside. And when I talk about inside, it's about paying attention to what we're thinking and what we're feeling, what the physical body is doing. That's pretty much the avenue that I take when it comes to the book and the direction I guide the readers.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think that's really hard for a lot of people when they start doing this kind of inner work, this inner looking, exploring, is they start to judge what they find. Let's talk about this idea of maybe you could wander around in there without giving it really harsh judgments.
That is so common. That is so common, Sharon. We all do it. Nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to get angry. Nobody wants to think that we could be rude or that we could be impatient or, oh my gosh, that we could be jealous. Nobody wants to think that. And so when we go inside and we have these feelings, how many times do we judge them? And I'd like to say anger would be one of them. When it comes to anger, we don't want to feel angry because society frowns on that. And they look at something like anger being a reaction and they think, well, that person doesn't know how to control themselves, doesn't know how to control their feelings. And so when it comes to judgment, Sharon, there's so many times where my perception of it is that people, instead of judging what they're feeling, they're judging the reaction or the how the anger is being expressed. And those are two different things when it talks about inside.
Let's talk about that, because I think you're right. A lot of people are judging the reaction of the observer to the anger. And then all of a sudden the person who's angry is seeing this or hearing it or feeling it, however you want it, probably all three. And so all of a sudden they just quash what's ever going on inside themselves. And oftentimes that has to be explored. That has to be, well, what set the anger off? I mean, most of the time it's perfectly reasonable types of things. Our response may not be perfectly reasonable, could be over the top or anything like that. But I think where the judgment happens is when all of a sudden we look outside and see how other people are shaking their finger at us, and then we go inside and sort of chastise ourselves. Well, I could have handled that better, or shame on me kinds of types of things.
That's so true. And we all have experienced that. And when it comes to being aware, that's why I thought, reactions being a red flag would be a great kind of conversation piece, because when it's a reaction, a red flag isn't a stop sign that says stop what you're feeling. It's a red flag saying, hey, pay attention. What's going on inside of you that's causing you to react? And the common answer is, well, they did something or they didn't do something. And well, of course I'm mad. Well, what's causing you to be mad? And that's where I guide people inside, because all of our reactions, all of our unrest, I call it, is inside. And I've got a quote in the book, actually. It says, your problems start outside of you and your problems will be resolved inside. So it's this part that we want to grow in awareness, to become aware of. Again, not that we want to stop that anger, because when we stop it and it gets locked inside, that's where we're dealing with the physical body sensations that after a while don't feel so great.
Absolutely. And I know that when I have, well, years ago, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, I'm paraphrasing from a mentor of mine about, swallowing your problems really just gives you indigestion. It doesn't help resolve the problems at all. It just creates greater anxiety within your body. And a lot of times people will notice that when they do swallow their problems, or if we're talking about flags here, waving the white flag and giving up, like, well, I'm just going to push it down and ignore it. They don't realize that it could be as quick as an hour or so. All of a sudden you might have a headache, or your shoulder or your neck hurts, or any number of things could be happening, and not relating it to stuffing it. So let's talk about some more about methods that you take people to go inside and get comfortable with the messy stuff in there.
Well, that's the thing. We're all dealing with some kind of stuff. Okay. And let's talk physical body stuff, because autoimmune systems, our whole autoimmune, when there's a dysfunction or a disorder, or there's some kind of problem in the whole immune system, that's because the body or the body's reacting in some way. So there's an influence, or there's something that's affecting it in some way. Now, when that's happening, it has been my experience that we've got thoughts that are happening inside that are kind of surfacing, and those thoughts lead us to feel something. Now, when those thoughts cause us to feel, the physical body has to respond. So when I take it and go, okay, well, what is this immune thing all about? What's really going on underneath causing us to feel this? It's about connecting with the insides there. Now people go, well, what is that to connect inside? Not always are we aware of what we're thinking about. And not always are we aware of what we're feeling about something. And to go inside, it's not so much, oh, I have to go inside, let me just be there. It's about being aware. And being aware often helps us to understand, why are we reacting in the first place? And secondly, what is the reaction? And those two things, Sharon, not a lot of people know about when it comes to ourselves.
Well, I think that maybe at some level, Sheila, and maybe this is your experience too, they know, but it's that kind of like, I just don't want to know. I mean, how many times have some friend told you a secret and you're like, I didn't really want to know that. So what you do is you stop it. You go, okay, I'll deal with that later. Don't have time. Got to get the kids to soccer, whatever it is. They're like, don't have time to deal with it now. And maybe it gets forgotten until there's another outside trigger. Maybe it's somebody's tone of voice that reminds you of that event or something like that. And that's what I find fascinating, that even though we may try our best to put it away or stuff it or do whatever, say, oh, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to like put it over here in the corner and it's fine. Yet in your book, you talk about, yeah, that's not really true. It's never just that easy just to like pull a curtain over it and never look at it again.
Yeah, I love how you worded that, because that's exactly what we do. It's just, okay, we're in the middle of how do you deal with your stuff when you're in the middle of a soccer field and your kids are running back and forth and now you have to go inside and you have to be with it. I hear you. It's not something that the world stops because now all of a sudden we got mad at somebody. And that's the thing that I address in the book, is the whole fact that we are made of energy, okay? And we can recreate what we are feeling right now. We can recreate it 10 hours later, 22 years later. All we have to do is think about it again. So let's play with that, Sharon, for a minute. Let's play with the fact that, let's say we're out shopping and the person in front of us in the grocery line is taking forever. And now all of a sudden we're getting antsy and we just like, oh man, we head over into the next lane and bump somebody's cart and now we're in an argument. Okay, stuff happens. It's not about stopping in that moment and going, oops, sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. It's about being aware that we did it. Because we can't undo stuff. We can't take words back and go, oops, I should have never said that. And it's okay, nobody heard. I mean, the words are out. But the thing that I invite the readers, the listeners, you to hear is that, you know what, later when you're in bed and no phones are ringing and you don't have to answer questions and the kids are sleeping and the spouse is doing whatever, you can just lay in bed and all you have to do is think about what you were experiencing. And in that moment, you will start to feel. And that's powerful. It's not about feeling it and going, oh, I shouldn't have did it. It's not about feeling it and then beating yourself up because you shouldn't have did it again. You've been working so hard and not being impatient. No, it's not. It's about, oh, why was I ever? And then, Sharon, the beautiful thing is going inside when you're there and you're just saying this to yourself, what caused me to be so mad now? What caused me to be so angry at that person? well, they shouldn't have cut me off. They shouldn't have. Okay, no big deal. Just keep saying, what is that about me? What's causing that in me to be doing that? Because the things that I've experienced is sometimes you can easily let stuff like that go, laugh it off. But then there's times where you get caught up in what you're doing, and then you're angry or you're whatever. But visit that when you're in your quiet time later, when you can kind of go, yeah, I don't know why I got so mad today.
Oh, I love that. I have to be honest, I don't do it in my bed. I have a little section of a little corner that I like that's all set up. I tend to, I know you talk about this a little bit. I tend to, what I'll say is ritualize it a little bit more. Instead of having it that way, that I have a very specific go-to place. And I find that helpful because it's almost as if I'm training myself. Okay, this is just me talking to that inner child. Okay, we are not judgmental here. And after a while, it's almost as if the body knows that when we're over there in the corner, that all these little kind of rules I've set up of like no judgment, keep breathing, all these little tiny rules just automatically happen. It's amazing to me, this idea of sometimes you can put some of these things into auto drive and it works.
And that's great. And I invite everybody to do what works best for them. It just happened to be something that worked for me when I would lay in bed and would think back in the day. And that's how I actually got moving forward on this whole path of what's going on inside me is at bedtime. Like I would just lay in there and go, where in the day did I react? Because that was important to me. Because I don't know about you, Sharon, it doesn't feel good when I'm mad at somebody. And it doesn't feel good when I lose patience and all of a sudden I'm miffed about something. I don't want to do that. And so that was something that I worked at daily for myself. And that's how I got to know, what's these thoughts are about. And these thoughts that I was thinking about the grocery store, for example. Wow. Okay. And then I could feel it. Now, the cool thing about the emotions that you feel is you'll feel sensations in your body. And what's important that I want you to hear right now is we don't have to know what those things are that we're feeling. Now it's about connecting with that feeling. And when we connect with that, believe it or not, you use the word, when we can just kind of let it go and we can just be with it, it'll actually dissolve into nothing and be totally gone.
So do you have a little, some people like mantras or affirmations or statements, or do you just think it through? I'm a little curious of how you get to that point of, so you come across this moment of in your day where you're like, not so good. And so there I would just said like a judgment statement. We talked about judgments a little bit ago. But do you have any sort of like ways to be with it? Is there any sort of repeating mantra, or have you found affirmations work, or any sort of thing to keep the mind on task, shall I say? Sometimes my mind will wander. I'll be thinking that I want to do this thing, and then all of a sudden, I need to get milk from the store. Wanders through.
Sharon, that's real. That's real life stuff. And you get caught up and you're just feeling it. And all of a sudden you have all these thoughts again about how it's the other person and how it's gone this side now, where it used to be I'd have to stop my thoughts and do a mantra and distract myself so I could stay focused. And now I've allowed myself to just let the thought come in and out. It doesn't have to be interfering. It doesn't have to be a problem. It's there. And I've come to appreciate, even through my meditation, if I could share with you, that there's times where I'll be meditating and then I'm thinking about what I'm making for supper, and all of a sudden now I've got this gourmet meal happening, and I just allow it, because when we're in that place where we're actually healing, the mind will try to distract us, take us out of there, and then all of a sudden we're not feeling anymore because we're caught up in our thoughts. And so I have to say, now I'm guiding more to the, if you have a thought, just let it be there and leave. And how I express this mostly, Sharon, is how you can drive down the street and you see some billboards, and one particular billboard will say, "Oh, entertainer coming to town." Well, you look at it and you're not even interested. You'll drive along, you won't even give that another thought. But then you'd come along and now all of a sudden you see that there's a billboard that talks about, oh, they're giving away $3,000 on a new vehicle purchase or something, for example. And you go, oh, how timely, I need a new vehicle. And then you can't let it go. Now that's the difference between allowing a thought about, what it is that you're thinking about. You just kind of recognize it, you're aware of it, but you just let it do what it's going to do, because all thoughts will come and go if you just allow them and you don't interfere and you don't get attached to them and you don't make them to be something and you don't judge them and all of those things.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that explains a lot, everyone. We need to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll talk to Sheila a bit more about how our bodies communicate with us and how that can be resolved during understanding the thoughts and how we can take care of them and our reactions. So reactions as red flags. I love that. And when we throw up the white flag, right? We'll be right back.
Life Interrupted Radio will return after these messages from our sponsors. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Sharon, and of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PinkyChenille.com. See you there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and tonight we're here with Sheila Unique. She is a relationship renovator. I love the title. And she works with women to resolve everyday life problems in their relationships. And she, as you've been hearing, brings incredible insights to bring relief quickly and easily. And one of the things about autoimmune that I have found in my healing journey is, yes, there was some sort of trigger, whether it's a virus or, a bacteria, whatever, but there's some sort of trigger that had caused the body to react. But then it was things that happened beyond that, like what was my reaction to the reaction, or to the flare, as we might call it? What is my reaction to the flare, or my body's reaction? And you can begin to see how this little rabbit hole can continue to, I'll just start finding out that maybe you've stuffed some old traumas in there as well. And as you begin to realize that our bodies are communicating us in multiple layers, in multiple ways. So Sheila, let's talk a little bit about how the bodies communicate with us. And you love to chat about how the thoughts and emotions really play into our body's communication.
That to me is so important, because every part of us is so interconnected and communicates with us to help us with our own learning and growing. And that's why I'm so passionate about guiding people to become aware of what it is for them. And you talked about the autoimmune, is that, everybody has their different reaction to what's going on in the body. And that happens to be one of them. And where I go with that is just notice the days where your body is reacting the loudest. So I say the loudest in that if you're having an autoimmune reaction of some kind, if it's not something that you experience every day, and all of a sudden just now, 2 weeks ago, it was the last time you had a reaction in the body, but now you're 2 weeks later and here it is again. This is where I guide people to recognize what is different in your life today that all of a sudden hasn't been for the last 2 weeks. So what's going on? And here's where I use the body and the communication process. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling? What's going on as far as your spirit? Is there rest or unrest? Where's conflict? What are you struggling with? And then when it comes to your energy body, which is absolutely a part of you, are you feeling drained and are you feeling tired? Are you exhausted about whatever it is? All of that communicates. And when it's the loudest, that's the beautiful point that I would pull up the red flag and say, hey, what's going on? Because we have to be aware of everything, right? We have to be aware what the kids are doing, what the spouse is doing, what are we going to have for supper? What are we going to do with our friend later? What's happening on social media? Okay, we're aware of so many things. And we can be going off in all these different directions. So it's not always about being aware of what we're doing, but when it gets really loud and it gets our attention, that's the most important time to be paying attention to what's going on with you.
That's so true. And yet I find so many people, statistically probably more women than men, throw in that really naughty word, selfish. I get really irritated. If you're not well and you're not able to get out of bed because of extreme fatigue, how are you serving the others that you say is selfish, taking care of yourself because you need to serve these others? It becomes this circle, chasing your tail circle where you're never going to be able to get out of that.
And the beautiful thing about recognizing that, Sharon, is having that awareness, you can do something about it. So if you find that you're caught up, and I use the word caught up liberally, if you find that you're caught up in the fact that you don't want to feel selfish and you don't want, your family needs you, just recognize that that's what it is. When you become a little bit distracted and you're not being yourself anymore because you giving and giving and giving, and finally the body breaks down, that'll be one way, I'll guarantee you, that it gets your attention. And that's how I express it. If I could share, and I always say, you get things in let's call it the spiritual realm, I call it, and the energetic realm, where you kind of are a little bit upset about something, but, oh, well. After a while, it becomes a little more psychological. So now we're moving into psychological, and you're giving it a thought, and it still kind of bugs you a little bit, but, well, okay. It's been around so long now, it affects the mental body, which is your mind. Okay. And so you're doing a lot of thinking about it, and people are talking about selfishness, and everywhere you look, it's about selfishness. And now it's in the mental body. Well, when they're in all of those bodies, you can tend to, let's use the word ignore them. So you can go shopping, or you can, go online on social media and get distracted, and you can watch a movie, and you can, whatever. And obviously you don't think about them anymore. But once it hits the physical, it's definitely got your attention, because you can't ignore the fact that you're not getting out of bed. You can't ignore the fact that your head's throbbing. I don't know about you, but you can't ignore if there's a toothache, for example. And that's the thing, and the power of the physical body, it gets your attention. And it's not always what's physically there as much as what is it showing you about the whole communication in the body. What are you thinking about? How come all of a sudden, after not having an autoimmune reaction for 2 weeks, now all of a sudden today you're having one? Well, it's not like, you're having a bad luck day. I'll guarantee you it has to do with maybe what's going on around you. And that's what I'm so passionate about sharing as well, is we usually have a reaction inside, that red flag inside, in relation to what's happening outside of us.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, though, that oftentimes with autoimmune, it can be inside out and outside in. Oftentimes outside in could be maybe you have food sensitivities, or you have food allergies, and you've been exposed to something. And so then there's that outside. And then I've always questioned about why is my body overreacting to this food that should be healthy or something? Maybe you're reacting to the oxalates in spinach or something like that. Why is my body reacting to something that for most people should be healthy? And so oftentimes it can feel a little bit, okay, well, I'm feeling poorly today just because I got exposed to, let's say, I don't want to beat up on spinach, but let's just use that again. Mm-hmm. and I've got exposed to that somehow accidentally. And yet I've often wondered that if our reactions and our anxiety about getting exposed to that food sensitivity might not increase some of the physical manifestations of it. So it's an interesting conundrum we can get ourselves into, which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Mm-hmm. And that's so valid. That's so real. You all of a sudden are eating something, and you can eat, well, in my case, I can eat something, spinach, and then all of a sudden the next time I eat spinach and there's a reaction, and I go, I always eat spinach. Okay. Those are the times where something else is going on in your life, to awaken that. And I just invite you again to consider what's going on around you. What are you thinking about? What are you feeling these days? Because there'll be times where you will do something and there'll be no problems. No problems. You're having fun with people. You happen to, I shouldn't have had that. Oh, well, I don't have a problem. And then there's times where you're being so diligent about what you have. And then there's an outbreak, and now you have a sick stomach. There's always some kind of tie, and you're right. But that's the important thing to recognize, Sharon. What is it for you? Like, for people to say, oh, you shouldn't do that, or, oh my gosh, no, what is it for you? And the more you become attuned or become aware about what's going on inside of you, as far as, when I eat that, it doesn't feel great. Okay, then when you don't eat it, you should feel great. But if you're still not feeling great, then I would invite you to consider, all right, what are you moving through? What are you feeling these days? What's going on? And I'm going to also just kind of warn you, it's not always easy to know.
Absolutely. It's not always easy to know. And multiple layers. I think the one thing is it's not always easy to know. Over the years, done multiple ways of exploring past traumas and upsets and things, and current traumas, upsets. Over the years, done multiple types of different interactions. What I find amazing and sometimes surprising is something will pop up and I'll go, well, darn, I thought I had fixed that. Or it's just like, I think the old line is another layer of the stinky onion kind of thing, because all of a sudden you're thinking about what is going on and you're allowing it to come through, and all of a sudden it pops in and you're like, well, shoot, I thought I had extinguished that. I thought we dealt with that. And so sometimes it can get a little like frustrating to me. It can get like, I thought we'd done that.
And you have. Now, here's what I want to show you. Let's move a little forward to what is it for you to be done that? Or if I could use the word, what is it to heal through something? This is really important. I remember being in a group session and my eyes were closed and we went through this healing process. And at the end, the facilitator of the group said, okay, now allow the healing to take place. And I'm sitting there and I have this fleeting thought, how would I know what's healed? Okay, and when we were done, I mean, I just went about my day and that thought fleeting comment went through my head again. And I thought, how do we know? And this is where I want to show you. We can't see what's in our physical body. We can't see what's in there. We can feel it. Oh my gosh, there's that sore knee again, or oh, there's that shoulder again. But we have no idea what's in there. And the same thing with our thoughts. We can't see them. We can't see our feelings, but they're there. And we have no idea the magnitude of healing that can take place when, like you said, I thought I was done that. You bet you were done that. But the mind wants you to think that, oh my gosh, there it is again. I still have that problem. Oh my God. When you don't. And it's always this, we relate to ourselves in such a way of, oh yes, I'll always have that. Yeah, my grandparents had it, my parents, I'm always going to have that. And that's not necessarily true. And so I'm going to step out of the box a little and I'm going to share how I have a brother who's got sugar diabetes. And, when you go into the doctors and they ask you all these things, if you go for a doctor's appointment, do you have any history of this in the family? And I would say, no, because I'm not allowing myself, and that allowing isn't quite the word. I'm not holding myself in a place where I have all of that. No, here I am, and I'm holding myself in a place of being healthy. So when you say, are you done or are you not done? I would invite you to hold yourself in a place of going, no, I'm done that. I've healed and I've resolved that. And how will you know? This is also very important to recognize. You will know because your thoughts will be different. How you perceive the situation will be different. In other words, you no longer kind of react like you did before. Your feelings will absolutely be different. And the most important thing is what goes on inside of you. So if you're catching yourself where, I thought I already dealt with that, I would invite you to go 2 or 3 steps past that and just go, what else is this about? What else is really going on inside? Because it's not about that anymore, because I've already healed that. I've already resolved that inside. Have you considered that, Sharon?
No, I love that. That's a great way to look at it. We need to take a quick commercial break, everyone. I'm going to ponder that for the next minute or so here during these commercials. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Sheila some more about this communication with ourselves and I'll say with others. We'll be right back.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Change and growth are part of natural life, and also part of your spiritual life. Everyone needs support and guidance, especially during life passages. Upgrade yourself with the OMTimes Experts program. With OMTimes Experts, you have access to the best intuitive coaches, spiritual teachers, counselors, astrologists, and oracles. Our team was carefully selected so you can trust. Find out more at experts.omtimes.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Research shows we apologize up to 10 times a day, and most of the time, we say sorry as a response to someone else's mistake. What if we thanked people instead of all that unnecessary apologizing? So instead of saying, sorry, I'm rambling, you say, thank you for listening. Join us at projectforgive.com, a free, non-religious resource on global forgiveness.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour. I'm Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com, and tonight we're here with Sheila Unique. She is a relationship renovator, and she works with women to resolve everyday life problems in relationships, and as well as she just brings incredible insights to understanding what's going on inside of us as well as outside of us. And she's helped tens of thousands of people resolve the unrest they feel inside and establish a strong relationship with the most important person in their life, themselves. I love that. And thank you for being here tonight, Sheila. One of the things in the last 14 minutes we have on the show that I wanted to talk about, though, is when we're diagnosed with an autoimmune, and actually through the journey, unless I've trained the medical professional otherwise, is they're more than happy to tell you all the grim statistics. You'll be on this for the rest of your life, or 90% of the people after so many years. All of these grim statistics coming from what I like to call the white coat authority. Gosh, that can be a little hard to continue to use words like cancel clear when you hear those things and not take them in. So what about outside influences?
What a beautiful question, because I'll remember going back to when I first met my husband, who I'm married to now. He was Dr. Cam Ewan, was a gentleman who worked with energetics. And in the presentation that he was doing live for us, my husband went up and he says, yeah, I've been told I have an enlarged heart. And Dr. Ewan looked at him, and he's amazing. And he says, the only problem you have is everything that you were listening to, that you've come to believe those things to be true. Well, all of a sudden, I could just feel the energetics in my husband shift. It was like whatever he was holding himself to believe had energetically just dissolved away. It was like all of those thoughts and the different things that were impacting his physical body. That was huge. And oftentimes, Sharon, when things are labeled, we hang on to those labels because, well, that's it. But the thing about labels, and I talk about that a lot in the book, the thing about labels is it somehow helps us to kind of know how to deal with stuff because we now know what we have, right? And that can, on some level, prevent us from healing. Because if we're open to, okay, at one time in my life, I went through that phase and I did have an autoimmune disorder. But now, my life's changed around. I'm in a new relationship. I feel so wonderful. The kids, our relationship has changed. Everything's changing so much. I no longer feel that my immune system is being influenced in a way that doesn't serve me. So it's about recognizing how far you've come in a journey, especially if you've done a lot of inner healing work. Allow yourself to move past that. And we don't need all those labels. You don't need labels when you're feeling something. Oh, yeah, I'm feeling anger. No, just feel. Just feel.
I like that, just feel. So as we're moving past it, which I say every day optimizing, just even if it's just a little bit, continue to optimize, and you'll be amazed at where you go in a year. It compounds. And so I've been on this journey a while, and I am absolutely amazed, breaking all the statistics, all of that, because I knew I could. I knew I would. It was just a matter of methodically moving through this and being okay with that. But one thing I bump into on occasion is, I'll just put in air quotes, other people talking about the old me, even if it was a day old ago, like labeling me from the outside in of these things, like, oh, Sharon, how are you doing? Or whatever. Things very like, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Are you really? You were so sick last time I saw you. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. I mean, helping other people reframe all the great inner work you're doing. How can you train others? Like, okay, it's all good. We don't need to go there anymore.
But sometimes it is about Sharon showing up differently and just going, no, that's totally different now. Because we all kind of want to, have a friend and be there for the friend. And a lot of times it's because we haven't seen him in a while and we want to connect and we think, oh, you poor thing. And yet you've totally changed. And it's sometimes it's just about appreciating them for who they are and their love for us. And again, just speaking up as far as how we're different.
Yeah. I like sharing with them sometimes some of the things I've done and learned. Like, I didn't know this. And what happens for me a fair amount of the time is you'll see a little light bulb go off in somebody else's head, even though my intention was not to train them or teach them, but just to give them an idea that I'm doing okay. Things are good, and I tried this, and wow, that was really interesting, and this is what happened. And all of a sudden, you notice your friends kind of maybe connecting the puzzle for themselves or someone they know. And I find that part interesting, how...
well, they show up sometimes in your life to help you see how far you've come, right?
Oh, nice.
And then the other side of that is now they see what's possible, because they could relate to you in one way as being, oh my gosh, oh, Sharon's going through such a hard time. And now they're looking at you going, wow, I didn't even know that's possible. And that's many times the glory that you bring when you show up and just be your beautiful self.
Yeah. One of the things that we've got just a few minutes left, but I want to touch on and get your thoughts on, I'm a big fan of journaling because I find that, I've talked about this on the show before, I find that, well, not that I exactly forget it, but sometimes it's nice to be able to read back into the old pages and realize, oh, I've been there before, and this is what I did to get out of that, or something along those lines. And what I like to do is just, I was taught this many years ago by a mentor, is to write only on the right-hand side of the page, and then go back periodically and write on the left-hand side of the page what's changed, what's happened, what did you do, how did that happen, what happened when you did that kind of thing. And I found that so useful to remind me, like that old saying, this too shall pass.
How beautiful. Now I'm learning more, even more from you, because I didn't even know that. That's awesome, Sharon. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great, I don't know about, maybe I'm the only one that does this, but a lot of times when I move through something, and remember I said you feel like you've done that, I've done that, I tend to put it away. I go over and file it in the old internal filing drawer, like, okay, done. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's really helpful to realize, oh, I've been in a similar place before. And I've forgotten it, taking sugar out of my diet. Yes, I have gotten a little too crazy with sugar lately. Maybe if I take the sugar out of my diet, those kind of fleeting nervous energy will dissipate or something like that. And I find that helpful. I don't know why I tend to, when I get feeling good, I tend to forget those things, but it's nice to have that reminder.
But that's normal that you do tend to forget those things, because that's what reactions do. When it comes to any kind of reaction, it's like a cloud. It's like this fog comes over us. And I remember playing cards with my ex-husband and my current husband and my daughter, we were all playing cards and we're really close. And for some reason that day, I was trying to impress him for my ex somehow. This was years ago. And I couldn't even add my cards, which is so not like me, because I was caught in this. And so when we're caught up in those times, Sharon, that's when we are going to be having our sugars, or we're going to be having our little meltdowns, or we're not going to be so clear on everything, or all of a sudden, we think we're the worst person walking the planet because we did something wrong. That's when we're in that. But it's, again, not about beating ourselves up and going, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. It's about becoming aware that, oh, red flag. This is about paying attention to what's going on, because I was aware and now could understand where I was different. Where had I changed? And by you going back in your journal, you're kind of looking, going, here's what I was doing. Okay, well, here's where I've changed. And once you're aware of that, you can't ever unlearn that. Like, it's not like you can pretend you didn't know it anymore. And the moment that you start to get caught up in sugar again, you just go, oh, geez, I haven't had sugar. Like, according to my book, I haven't had sugar for at least 3 years. How come all of a sudden today, what's going on in my life, that sugar seems to be a big deal? And chances are you might be going through something. Maybe there's a relationship struggle. Maybe there's a financial challenge. Maybe all of a sudden somebody really close to you is dealing with something and it's really stressful. That's the beautiful thing, again, about reactions and becoming aware of the reactions, in the sense that now you see where the changes are. And it'll be such a beautiful communication package that comes through our thoughts and our feelings and our physical body, the sensations we have, that they're all interconnected for our learning and growing.
That's beautiful. We're just down to the last couple of minutes. Sheila, share any final thoughts, and then where they can find out more about you and how they can get the book, because it really is a masterpiece. And like I said, congratulations for hitting #1 even before it was available in pre-order. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Sharon. I would say in closing that Relatefully is about relating more fully to yourself. And when you do that, you absolutely gain a greater awareness of what that is for you and how now you're communicating with others. Because when you change, when you heal all of that, Sharon, you can't help but vibrate change, which impacts everybody else around you. And you can access my book at relatefully.com/new book. You find all the details there, and relatefully.com is my website, and I'm excited to be a part of today and your show, Sharon, and it's with much love and grace that I wish you much more success in what you do going forward too.
Thank you, Sheila. As always, that's everyone. That's my good friend, Sheila Unique, and she's an amazing author, and The Relationship Renovator, which I love the title because it's so apropos. It's so perfect. Everyone, that's relatefully.com. I'll have that over at Understanding Autoimmune. Check us out on social media. It's either Autoimmune Hour, like on Twitter, it's Autoimmune Hour, and on Facebook, it's Understanding Autoimmune and Autoimmune Hour. So you can check us out all those places and sign up to get all of the latest news about those over there in the social media. And join us next week for another brand new episode. Enjoy.
The information provided on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, including the websites understandingautoimmune.com and lifeinterruptedradio.com, plus social media, is for educational purposes only. What you read, hear, and see on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio, and its websites, and other media outlets is based on experience only. The information should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on the Autoimmune Hour, Understanding Autoimmune, and Life Interrupted Radio. It's great sponsors like these that keep this show coming to you every week. Be sure and stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com to learn more.
Hi, this is Sharon. And of course you know me from here on the Autoimmune Hour. Maybe you don't know I'm also an author. My latest book is for kids. It's Pinky Chenille and the Rainbow Hunters, a winner of a 5-star Reader's Favorite review. It's perfect for your early reader and a great bedtime story for your young adventurers. Check it out over at pinkychenille.com. That's PINKYCHENILLE.com. See you there.